Detroit Lions podcast. Powered by the Monroe County Reporters. Here are your hosts, Jason Harwood and Jacob Litton.
All right, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Talking Grit. I'm Jason Harwood, and Jacob Litton is here as well. This show right here marks 1 year from starting our podcast. I was speaking for Jacob, but it has been so much fun. We've had the opportunity to meet so many cool people. We're thankful for all the times our guests have given to us, and beyond thankful for everyone that's tuned in, downloaded, streamed an episode, told someone about us. It's really humbling, the whole thing. So we appreciate everything that's been given to us over the course of this year. So obviously we started with episode 1 last year. That was kind of our introduction to you, the listener. If you haven't had a chance to listen to that episode, I do recommend you go download that. You get to hear how we started the show, our background and whatnot. I do recommend listening to that. It's a good episode. Episode 2 of our series was the schedule release reaction, which we're going to do today. So, Jacob, anything you want to add to our year anniversary here?
Yeah, happy anniversary, man.
Yeah.
No, it's crazy that it's been a year.
Yep.
Right? No, having a great time doing it. Appreciate all the support, getting way more volume and attention and just everything than what we ever thought we were going to get. So it's really been great. I'm enjoying the ride.
Yeah, for sure. Not enjoying this Tigers game that's going on right now. We're getting shellacked, unfortunately.
Yeah, I was at baseball with Milo, so I did not get to see the beginning of it. But did the starter get injured? Was it
no?
Gunther?
So
or how
it is a bullpen day. So it started with.
But he didn't
Gunther.
even. Did he get an out?
He did not. Gave up 3 straight hits, and then the next hitter was a right-hander, and he pounds left-hander. So they put Kiter. I think they were planning on hopefully Gunther getting at least a couple outs or all 3, and then they put Kiter in for the second inning. But Kiter hasn't pitched too bad today. It's just everything's outs are turning into runs. They're being aggressive on the base pass, and we're just not putting together. Sonny Gray's keeping us locked down offensively, unfortunately.
Right. This morning I saw this morning that Montero was starting.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know at what point that changed. I don't know if that was just scheduled and then they, called an audible today. I don't know. And then I saw, okay, well, they're going with a different guy, and then I'm just looking. I wonder what happened with the game.
Ugly, like what they did late last year. That they just decided, we're gonna.
But I mean, Montero's been pitching ever since. As we're talking right now, it's the 5th inning. Is it 5 or 6?
I think it's the top of the 6th now.
Top of the 6th, yeah.
Yeah.
Montero's still in there, but I mean, I guess.
Yeah, it's
see.
just one of those things where we're just giving up runs with outs and just not doing it. But all right, man, let's talk about this schedule with the Lions. Always exciting for me. Get to see what home games, what they're what's going on. It used to be all 1 o'clock games. Obviously, things are totally different this year. So when the schedule came out on Wednesday, what did you have any overall impressions of it or thoughts about it?
Well, we knew who we were gonna play.
Mm-hmm.
I did notice right away all the primetime games and the fact that the 1 p.m. thing is kind of especially on away games, the 1 p.m. thing went away. Yeah. So that's cool. I mean, we thrive in the spotlight. So week 1 at the Packers, I mean, tough game to start off the season, right?
Yeah, tough game. He's, starting out with the division, but we're getting Lambeau out of the way early, which I do like that. Weather will not, could be a factor that it's too warm. That'll be the factor there. It's not going to be snowing in September in there, so I'm okay with it. Get it out of the way early, and we'll see how it goes.
That's true, but so the first 2 weeks of the season we start at Green Bay, and then we have home versus Chicago, and then at the very end of the season we end with 2 divisional games. So that's at Minnesota, and then the very last game at Chicago. That's going to be a cold game.
Yes, that will obviously the latest game. I'm definitely going to be our coldest game. Speaking of cold games, looking at the schedule, and all their away opponents, we had the potential to have a lot of cold games if all those would have been, we'd got more in December. Luckily, our last away outdoor game is going to be at the Eagles. Besides that Bears one that you're talking about, will
Right.
be at the Eagles week 11. So we really kind of lucked out. I mean, it's still going to be cold in Philadelphia, November 16th on that day. However, we kind of lucked out. Especially, we got the Ravens, we got them early, so we don't, have to play in Baltimore. The
Kansas
Bengals
City gets cold. The Bengals, yeah, right.
we hit those in October 5th and 12th. So I mean, we really they did us a favor as far as weather concerned. I'll take the one game at the Bears at the end of the season. I guess if I'm going to want to face any of those teams away, it's going to be the Bears. As
Right,
compared
right.
to every other away game that we got. Those are some tough games.
I did obviously was looking out for that bye week too. So the bye week much closer to the middle of the season. It's in week 8. So
Yep.
obviously you've got 7 games before, 10 games after. And last year we had our bye in week 5.
Yes.
So after that, week 5 bye week, we played 13 weeks before we got a break. And obviously we all know the story with the injuries and everything that happened. So I like the bye being closer to the middle of the season.
Yeah, I'd take a little bit later, but way better than
Well,
week 5.
right.
Yeah, certainly way better than week 5. Anytime at week, from week 8 on, I mean, I know the players they're dying for some rest because not only they've been playing, like you said, 7 straight weeks, they've also had, getting ready for preseason games before that, and then training camp before that. Their bodies haven't given too much of a break, from the summer until that bye week.
Right. No, I think that's a sweet spot. 8, 9, 10. Because if
Yep.
you're bye weeks later than that, then the beginning of the season feels like a gauntlet, and then that bye week doesn't feel like enough of a break.
Yep.
But then it also kind of throws you off your routine, off your game right as the end of the season when you should be rallying. So,
Yeah. So, you mentioned 12 primetime lines, 12 nationally televised games. Didn't think I'd ever be saying that
12.
with our Lions.
Yeah.
12 nationally, only 5 1 p.m. games. Man, there wasn't too long ago, it was 2 seasons ago, that every single one of our game outside of the Thanksgiving Day game was a 1 p.m. game.
Right. And
Kinda
Thanksgiving
liked
was
those
12:30.
days. I liked those days from the scheduling standpoint. You just knew 1:00 Lions was on. I could schedule a weekend around that. Now
And then
it's
you could wallow in defeat the entire evening
yeah, just get
and watch some other team play Sunday night football.
yeah, and watch a good game on Sunday Night Football. Now, we're gonna have what do we got? We got 2 Sunday Night Football games, right? And
2 Monday night, 2 Sunday night, 3 Thursday games. The Bears game the last week of the season potentially, obviously depending on how the season goes, that could be moved up to prime time.
Yeah, they could flex some of these games, and you could flex the Rams game. You could see that having some potential to be flexed. Uh, Steelers always a potential to be flexed if they're fighting for something towards the end of the season. You could see that one being flexed. We
Right.
could definitely get moved around. Hopefully, it's not. I don't know. I think we are eligible for. I wonder if we're eligible for any other Thursday night games. I don't think that we are, but I don't know what they count Christmas or Thanksgiving. Like you're allowed like 2 or 3 or something like that. I think we're maxed
That
out.
sucks, by the way.
What?
The Thanksgiving and Christmas thing.
Oh,
I don't understand why they would do that. Obviously, that's a tradition that we play on Thanksgiving, so totally on board.
Yes.
But then Christmas, Thursday in Minnesota.
I know. Yeah, I
get that it's a prime time slot, and obviously they really need these ratings. They really need these numbers. So, I mean, that's a marquee matchup. So I'm sure that's Netflix, right? That's got the
Netflix has.
Yeah. So I'm sure Netflix probably was like, hey, these are the teams we're looking at. This is who we want. So, I understand from that perspective, but it feels wrong to have to play on both of those holidays.
I agree. I'm like,
and that's now 2 short weeks.
I'm used to Thanksgiving. I'm used to having Thanksgiving. That's fine with me. However, on Christmas, especially like that's like 4:30, we're like opening gifts with my wife's family at that point. I'm like
Not
you.
anymore.
I want to be dialed in, right? And so now we're gonna have to call an audible on that. Might have to have Christmas a little earlier, open up those gifts. We're gonna have to strategically time uh like dinner right at halftime and just chow down and be like, I'll clean up later.
Yeah, no. I think you need to move it earlier.
You wanna
Depending on how this game goes, you don't want anyone to be around when you're in a bad mood.
No, yeah. Uh
We're down big at the half, and then
no, that's
Jason's
not gonna
losing
happen.
his crap.
Yeah, no, that's not gonna happen.
Oh, knock on wood. I mean, that's a long way away, and
Yeah. Week 17, maybe we have everything wrapped up and that game doesn't even matter, right?
exactly. Hey,
Let's
man, it's a
let
gauntlet this year. The schedule is so
it is.
difficult. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we're going to be able to match our record from last year. But it's
Yeah.
not about that. Honestly, what I'm looking toward, like, stay healthy, stay in the race. We got the 1 seed, we got the bye week last year. Would that be awesome to get it again? Of course it would, because that means the season went very well. But in the grand scheme of things, it didn't matter last year. So really, I mean, just get your foot in the door, get into the playoffs, make something happen. Hopefully healthy,
Yeah.
That's
Get
what I'm
into the
looking at.
dance.
So
Yeah, get into the dance and then just, be rolling at that part of the season is what
right.
you want to have happen. Yeah, you're right. Like I don't think it's fair to compare last year's record to this year's record when you look at just the away games. I mean, it's not even just the teams we're facing, it's all those teams on the road, the Ravens, the Bengals, Chiefs, Commanders, Eagles, and then plus our division. That is
Those are
really,
like the
really tough.
top 10 teams in the NFL, and
I
we're
know,
playing them on the road, all of
right?
them.
Well, you got both teams from the NFC, all AFC and NFC championship, right? All four of those teams, right? On the road. That's essentially the four best teams from last year that we're gonna have to face on the road this upcoming season. But I expect the Chiefs maybe to dip down a little bit. They won so many close games last year, but who knows? It's
They just
Patrick
had a lot
Mahomes.
of things going their way. Right.
Yep.
Obviously, when you've got Mahomes, what's the saying? Luck favors the well prepared or something like that. But, they skated by a lot. And
They
then
did.
they kind of got exposed in the Super Bowl.
Yep. They certainly did, but they got to the Super Bowl, right? And I mean, they did beat the Ravens. It's not like you know, they beat the Bills and the Ravens to get in this. I mean, those are top two teams. We lost the Bills last year.
Was it that when Mark Andrews dropped that ball though, the Ravens and Chiefs, or was that the last
No.
game of the season?
Yeah, I think that wasn't the playoff game. So I
Okay.
think yeah. We got to face the Bengals, which their defense is, obviously exposed last year. We'll see if they're any different this year. Um, who knows if Trey Hendrickson's going to sit out or what's going to happen there.
Yeah, right.
Their offense is no joke. Obviously, we got weapons all up and down there, so that it's going to be tough. But I'm okay with it. Let's get through this, and then that'll harden you up and get you ready for the playoffs. If you can make it through this season and make the playoffs, that's right. You don't want to face us, after facing all these teams.
You don't have to say who, but looking at our schedule, how many of these games on the schedule would you say lean more towards the easier side than the difficult side?
Okay. Like
before the season's even started,
Yeah.
like just thinking, look at this schedule and tell me how many of those games you would lean would be easier. Doesn't mean they're going to be, but just
Yeah. I'm not going to count any of the division games because
No.
they're always tough. And the only one that I would consider easier would be the Bears, and
we don't know
yet.
that.
We don't know that. But I'll say, just off the top of my head, I would say Browns, Giants, and then possibly the Steelers would be on the easier side of things.
Right.
And we got all those guys at home. Cowboys,
Agreed.
depending on where they're at, Cowboys could be tough. But if Dak Prescott's hurt, and he seems to get hurt every year, if he's hurt during that time, then they're going to be an easier team too. I mean,
yes. And that's all circumstantial. But if you're just looking right now on paper, that's I had the same ones. The Browns game. Then you would look at the Giants game and potentially the Steelers later in the season. That's also, a sneaky Giants game that we're looking at too, in between some tough one. We'll talk about that later. But yeah, just my point being that there's not really, you can't look at the schedule and be like, at least we get a break this week. Like maybe a little, but not really. Last year we had like the Titans game, which when we went into, we were pretty sure we were going to be able to handle that. The Jaguars, the Colts, those were all games that we weren't necessarily worried about because we knew if we came out like we should, then we would take care of business. And we did in a huge way. So, I mean, obviously hoping for some blowouts like that this year, but
I'm not counting on any of that.
Never counting on a blowout. I'm hoping for it.
Yeah, Hendon Hooker might not get any snaps during the regular season this year, unlike last year where he got, some cleanup duty. Couple things that I wanted to point out about this schedule that I found interesting. We are the fourth lowest in terms of travel mileage for the season, which is good. I mean, we don't have any international games, so that really bumps up some teams,
right,
mileage. And we only go West Coast one time. That's at the Rams later on in the season. Was that week 14? So most of it's mostly in our region. So that's going to be nice. And then also we have the second best rest differential, which means how much rest we get compared to other teams. We're second best since 2002. So not, I mean, in 23 years, we got the second best rest differential. So the NFL did us a favor as far as like rest. I know we got those Thursday games, but at least the way they're staggered, like the 2 Thursday games, like they did last year, we got Thanksgiving and then the following Thursday after. And I will say one advantage, I know the Cowboys are playing, but the Cowboys have to come to us, right? Both of ours are home games, which that's nice. There's no travel in those between those Thursday games.
Right. Yeah, you still have the short. That's weird, for the rest, because I mean, you play the Giants on Sunday, and then you turn around on Thanksgiving and play the Packers. So that's only a 4-day break. Then you've got a full week because you play the Cowboys the following Thursday, and then you have the first like longer break between that game. Cowboys and Rams is 10 days.
Yep.
But then you have the Steelers game is on a Sunday, and then on Christmas you have the Vikings. So that's another 4-day turnaround. And then that one you actually have from Christmas. Then we don't play again until January 4th. So I don't know if it's just those two right there, but I mean, you think that offsets by the 2 short weeks.
Yeah.
So interesting.
I think that equals out, but then also like we got lucky that we have the Monday Night Football game versus the Buccaneers, and then we have the bye after that. So then,
right.
No short week there, and yeah, so we have the one short week and week 3 to week 4 when we go from Ravens. But then the nice that we play our easier game, versus the Browns on that short week. So that's helpful. I'll take that. So Jacob, when you're looking at our schedule, let's break it up into 4-game stretches. Do you have a 4-game stretch that you think is particularly tough?
I think there's 2. Well, it's hard because obviously it's a difficult schedule. It's hard to pinpoint, but it's going to be really tough playing. We have a game against the Vikings after the bye week. We have a game against the Vikings. You wouldn't necessarily call that one the difficult one because we have a bye week to prepare. But then the 4 after that, we are at Washington. We are at Philadelphia. Then we play the Giants, which is the one where you're talking about. But then you have a short week, and then we're playing the Packers at home on Thanksgiving. Mm-hmm. That's going to be a difficult stretch, in my opinion. 3 of those 4 are going to be really tough games. With the Giants being before the Packers, and especially because you get a late game against the Eagles, you're expecting a potential battle there. That's what I'm looking at as I think the toughest 4. Outside of that, I would just say the final 4 of the season. 3 of the final 4 games of the season at LA, at Minnesota, at Chicago, home against Pittsburgh. Those 2, I think, are what I have. Are those either yours or what was your toughest 4-game stretch?
So I matched with you on my toughest stretch. That's what I had, week 10 through 13. The Giants do break up that gauntlet of teams that you were talking about, Commanders, Eagles, both on the road, and then a short week to the Packers. That, playing any divisional game on a short week, that stinks. Playing the Packers again on Thanksgiving. I just want one season with my season tickets that they play them on Sunday, even 4 o'clock. Just give me that. I haven't been able to go to a Packers game because it just doesn't line up with my family with the way that we've been playing them. So I would please next year just give them a 1 o'clock or a 4 o'clock game in Detroit. But anyways, the other stretches that I had were weeks 3 through 6 at Ravens, at Bengals, at Chiefs. The Browns split that up. They're in the middle.
Right.
And then weeks 6 through 10 were on the radar too because you got at Bengals, at Chiefs, Buccaneers, and then Vikings. But then you got a bye week that breaks that up. So we've kind of, when I looked at the schedule and I was like, this 4 week stretch, we kind of got lucky in the sense that there's an easier team in the middle of these really tough 4 game stretch. And I'm not saying the Lions could just take a week off. They can't. You can't afford to take a week off in the NFL. But it is nice that, like, of the easier games that you and I targeted at the beginning of this podcast, it's in the middle of these really tough stretches, and that's that'll help the Lions out, I think. But I'm with you. Commanders, Eagles, Giants, Packers on a short week. That's why I picked that, just because the Packers on the short week, and then you're
Right.
playing the two teams in the NFC Championship game from last year on the road, back to back.
Yes.
And the weather could be a factor too. I know, it's gonna be November 9th and November 16th. It's gonna be cold. Hopefully we avoid snow in those games. Although maybe that's the
Eagles and
benefit.
snow games. I'm not a fan of that.
The Calvin Johnson where he just dive in his visor,
Snow all it, yeah.
snow, like in where his visor would be. Man, just
LaShawn McCoy running loose.
Yeah.
Still have nightmares.
Yeah, we were up big in that game, and then in true same old Lions fashion, we gave up that lead, and that was crazy weather. All right. When you look at the schedule, did you have a big surprise, something that you did not expect in the schedule?
I didn't necessarily have a big surprise. I think the only thing for me that I would say is surprising is our Monday night game against the Buccaneers. And it's not necessarily that we're playing the Buccaneers, because now we've got kind of a history and everything, a little bit of a rivalry the last little bit. I just don't like that it's part of like that Monday night doubleheader and it's a 7 o'clock game.
Mm-hmm.
That part doesn't, I don't like that. I guess I wouldn't even call it a surprise. I don't like the 7 o'clock. I don't like the double. I like watching Monday Night Football. I like watching Sunday Night Football. Even when it's not the Lions, I'm relaxing and watching it when it's not the Lions. When there's more than one Monday Night Football game, that's just irritating to me.
Mm-hmm.
And now, especially with the Lions are in it, I can't watch them both at the same time. There's no red zone.
Yeah. So I'm looking at a different case. I like that we have the earlier game, because then we get to bed a little bit earlier.
Oh my God! Of course,
my boys can watch it. Well, listen, man, I don't want
to. Okay, the kids, I get it, because this one that's at home. Yes. So you got that one circle that potentially, because it's earlier, you can go to it now.
We might be going to it because of that reason alone. I think I'm sure I mentioned this on the podcast before. We give the kids an option to either go in late or miss a day of school, and my kids are both very on top of their schoolwork. If they were behind, or I was worried that they would fall behind, that wouldn't be an option. But for me, with my kids, I know they could handle it. We give them the option. They most times do not want to go into school tired the next day, and my oldest especially does not want to take time out. He's afraid of falling behind, and that's his own decision. That's not parents talking to him. He knows that will stress him out, so he chooses not to do that. However, when I told him they're starting at 7 o'clock, I said we can get home at a reasonable time. That's like reasonable is like before midnight. That
they could sleep in the car also.
Right. I don't know. It's so hard to sleep after a game like that, Monday Night Football.
Yeah, right. That's true.
And I've never been to a Monday night game.
Win or loss.
Yeah,
Monday
I've
Night
never been to
Football
a
is
Monday
great.
night game. The boys obviously haven't. So I want to experience that. This might have afforded us the opportunity to be able to experience that. My biggest surprise.
Okay, I was just gonna say, what was your surprise though? That was your rebuttal from what I said.
My surprise was getting the Bears. Our first matchup is just a 1 p.m. game. I thought with the storyline in there that it would at least be a 4 o'clock game,
Right.
if not a Sunday
The
night
return of
football
Ben
game
Johnson
or
back to
something.
Detroit. Yeah.
It's like there's a lot build up there. I know that maybe it's more. I wouldn't even. Ben Johnson going to the Bears was a big deal nationally. I mean, it's being brought up. That's why I'm just surprised that they scheduled this at 1 o'clock in week 2. I thought that it would definitely be a nationally televised game, if not a Sunday, prime time Sunday night game, or even a Thursday night football game, just because that would bring in viewers like, oh, let's see what Ben Johnson does against his old team. So that shocked me.
That's true. That's a huge talking point. And it's week 2 of the season, so I mean, best case scenario, we're 1-0 going into that. There's not much riding on it, as far as the week 18 game, how that one looks. Right. And that one right now is penciled in for 1 o'clock anyway. So
yeah, they're all 1 o'clock until they find out. Just like
us
last year, we got moved to Sunday night football. I will say that I know this is my biggest surprise, but I also really like that we got one of the Bears games early in this season, because I think I said last week I want to get the Bears early before they get rolling or they get their offense really, really going. So getting them in week 2, I think is going to be a huge advantage to the Lions.
We'll see. I don't know. I mean, they could be fresh too.
Yeah.
Well, and back-to-back NFC North. I mean, you don't want to go down. You don't want to lose the first 2 games. It only gets more difficult, and then you've got a long way to try to claw back.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. And then, I mean, not only go 0-2, but then 0-2 in the division as well. That's right. Really, really tough. Yeah, I don't. Let's not speak that into existence.
Right. Well, I mean, that would be the scenario for the Bears possibly too, because they, the Bears Vikings is week 1. So.
Mm-hmm. Yep. All right. Is there a trap game on this list here?
It's hard to pick a trap game because all the games are so difficult, right? So I mean, amongst the trap games, it would only be against the teams that we kind of mentioned earlier. So I went with the Giants.
Yeah.
It's week 12. By that point, we'll have a pretty good idea of how the season's going for both teams. But I mean, Jackson Dart could be starting and killing it. He could look like Jaden Daniels did last year. And the bigger concern for me is just you've got those 2 games. You got the Commanders, you got the Eagles, and then here we go with the Giants. But we also have the Packers game looming after that. Mm-hmm. So, I talked about that last year too. Somebody's kind of banged up. Maybe somebody's on a snap count. Maybe we're just trying to hold them for the following week because obviously it's a much more important game. So at least there's no travel involved. The Giants game is at home, and then the Packers is at home after that. So, I mean, looking at all of them, though, that's the only one I think you could really say would be a trap game.
Yep.
What do you think, though?
Yeah, that's exactly what I thought, just because the short week afterwards. And even if you want to call it a trap, you don't want to call it a trap game. What you mentioned earlier, the injury, right? If you got a player that, okay, they might be able to come back on Sunday, but if they come back on Sunday, that might push them out for Thursday. You're going to play it safe and hold them for the Packers game. And, you want to say, okay, well, obviously the Giants are, as of right now, you think the Giants are going to be an easier opponent than the Packers, but no game in the NFL is a gimme, and you better be ready on your A game for any of these teams. And so it's hard to play that game where like, well, we'll just save them for the Packers game. Well, that doesn't necessarily always work out.
Definitely.
I mean, you look at, we mentioned the Steelers possibly being early. I mean, that's in the middle of, at Rams, the 3 away games. You got at Rams, at Vikings, at Bears. And the other one that could possibly fall in there would be, I would think, would be the Browns. You're going at Ravens. That's early in the season. You got 2 division games at Ravens, and then the Bears. Finally, you get something. Maybe you get a little bit of a breather in that game, and then you're following it up with at Bengals the following week. So you're gonna have to get ready for that game too. But I think the answer is obvious, and I think it's the Giants, which is what you said.
Right.
All right.
Agreed.
I didn't watch this whole video, but you put on here which matchup do the players look forward to? Did you watched it, right? So
Yeah,
what?
I always find this interesting. They did this last year too. Well,
Yeah.
the Lions social media team does some they ask the players questions like when they're on their way into the facility and stuff. And this one it said what matchup do they most look forward to? Well, then they had like I don't know if it was like popsicle sticks or something, but then they had each team like on there.
Mhm.
And it was interesting to me that it seemed like most of the players were looking forward to the Cowboys game. And I don't know if it's just because it's the Cowboys, because of the game last year. Maybe some of the players have like ties to Texas, which I did not look into. But it seemed like the Cowboys game was a really popular pick. I want to say it was Tim Patrick. Like, they walk up and they're looking, and Tim Patrick picks up the Packers one and just throws it on the ground.
That's awesome.
He's like, we're not even holding that. I think DJ Reed just picked up every single one.
Did he?
Everyone. He said, I'm looking at every single game.
Nah, that
was cool.
Great. Yeah, I do like how they do that. It is fun, and I saw a little bit of it. I just I kind of forgot to go back to it and watch it, but from what I saw, yeah,
it was a quick minute or two video. Just a lot of the players.
Yeah, I like it. So we know what the players are looking forward to. Let's look at what we're looking. We're gonna look at our top 5 games that we want to see this season. You want to go? Do you want to do all yours at the same time, or you want to go 5, and then we'll go back and forth?
Let's go back and forth like 5, 5, 4, 4.
Okay.
Because I have a feeling we might have the same couple ones at the
fine.
top. So I mean, I don't have too many talking points prepared about these, but I do have the games I'm looking forward to. So
yeah,
my at number 5 for the top 5 games I'm looking forward to, week 18 at Chicago.
Okay.
Possible playoff implications, this, maybe Ben Johnson pulling out some trick plays, trying to do whatever he can to beat his former team. This could be a win or go home kind of thing. Like, this could be your last chance to make the playoffs. This could be for the division. There's a lot of stuff that could be for this game. Obviously, I'm hoping that we already have the 1 seed locked up, or that, it doesn't matter as much for us. And hopefully the Bears are just looking at a top 5 pick or something like that. But, this one is my number 5 for game I'm looking forward to.
My number 5 is in the division, but a different game. Week 1. This is the season opener.
Okay.
See him play the Packers. By that time, September 7th rolls around. We are waiting for football. We as a Lions fan, we have sit through 4 preseason games. 3 is too much. Now we got a 4th this year because of the Hall of Fame game. While I'll take any Lions football over no Lions football, by the time the season rolls around, you're like, I would just want something to count. I want to see the starters play. I'm ready for it, and to have it in Lambeau, good to see the Packers. I mean, it'll be exciting. 4:00 game too, right? So we're gonna have to sit through, Thursday night football, the opener. We're gonna have to sit through. There'll be a Friday game, and then all those 1:00 games, and then we'll finally get to see our Lions play at 4:00. Which I guess is a little better than last year because we started at Sunday night football. We were 8:00 game, so a little bit earlier, but it still will be a long wait, even that day, to get into the 1:00 games all the way to Lions.
Absolutely.
Who do you got?
I don't have that one. I don't have that one on my list. But my number 4 game is Thanksgiving against Green Bay.
All right.
Losing on Thanksgiving sucks. And it's even worse when it's to an NFC North opponent. And I would go out on a limb and say it's the ultimate worst when that is the Packers. Right? I just think that's the worst. Losing on Thanksgiving against the Packers is the worst combination. And it happened in 2023, right? Just a couple years ago. Had eat pie while I was crying.
And they took it to us
You know,
that game. It wasn't.
right.
I mean, that game was just over. They just took it right to us, and yeah, it
On
wasn't.
paper, I think it might have looked closer in the end than it was because it really wasn't. I mean, they took the steam out right at the beginning. You know, we lost to them, and then we lost the Bears after that, and you know, obviously the rest of that season picked back up and looked better. But I just really want to smoke them on Thanksgiving. I want to win on Thanksgiving, and we got to play the Packers, so it's even sweeter. Like we got to get it done.
Yeah, so that's fun. You went with the Bear. What you went Bears week for your number 5. You went Packers went number 2. I actually went Bears, but I went week 2. The first I want to see it. So I want week 2. I want to see Ben Johnson. I want to see him back in Detroit. And also, I'm really looking forward to this game because this will be my first game. This will be the season opener at Ford Field. So this will be the first game I get to go to this season, other than the preseason games. So I am just jacked for that. Like I said, 1:00 games. 1:00 games are fun to go to just from the matter of you get up early. We're getting ready for the game. A lot of times, like on a Sunday where there's an away game, or 1:00 just seems like it takes forever to get there on a Sunday. I'm trying to get my chores done. I do everything before football starts. Well, sometimes it's
Sarah gives you chores.
yeah. Well, I give myself chores. I want to be able to sit down at 1
Does she
o'clock
make
and
you
not
believe
feel
that?
guilty. What?
Yeah. I said, does she make you believe that you've done that to yourself?
Yeah, well, whatever. I know I have family responsibilities. I'm getting it done, and that I make sure my boys get all their homework or whatever else they've saved up. They get that done. But also, when I go to a game, we're getting up. We get up kind of early. Then we leave around 9ish in the morning. We get up to right when the stadium opens, and then we're hanging out in the stadium and we're doing stuff in the Ford Field, and time goes by a little bit quicker. So yeah, I can't wait for that week 2 game.
Definitely.
Right.
Makes sense.
Number 3, what you got?
Number 3, I actually have week 3 at Baltimore, Monday Night Football.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't remember the last time we beat the Ravens, so I had to look that up. I don't know if you know this. Do you have a guess for what year that was?
I have no clue. It just seems
2005. It's been 20 years since we beat the Ravens.
Should have been that Justin Tucker game.
Well, right. I have that on here. The last couple games we've had a few blowouts, and then mixed in you've got Justin Tucker's 66-yard field goal game. He had the 61-yard field goal at the end to beat us again. We really just need to take it to the Ravens. That 2005 win, Joey Harrington went 10 for 23, 97 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 picks. Sean Bryson had a 77-yard touchdown run, and we won.
Oh, man.
That's the only time we've ever beaten the Ravens, actually. Which,
really?
I mean, I think the Ravens was that like 99, 2000 was their first year, technically.
Yeah, somewhere around there.
Right. So, I mean, we're looking at maybe 25, 26 years of them existing, and we beat them 1 time. Until this year.
That's going to happen.
We got that 38-6 loss to get off our back.
Oh, God. Man, that was a downer, too. Like,
that really was.
We
did not see that coming at all.
Yeah, we were all expecting that to be a really good game. And the thing about that was over like before it even got started. They came down and scored like on every drive in that first half. We couldn't do what was it, Coach Diddley Poo on offense, who was the Saints coach. He's like, we couldn't do Diddley Poo on offense. Well, that was the Lions. Couldn't do anything, and we couldn't stop them either. It was embarrassing. And people were like, oh, that's the true Lions. Well, we came back and had a really good season after that, but it was embarrassing. And it was something that I was like, oh, God, you just want to be competitive, right? And we were anything but in that game.
Yeah, that was a game David Montgomery missed. And it was like, I think Gibbs had a good first half, but then it was just, they scored touchdown, and, we were doing nothing at all. Goff throws the ball 50 times that game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was Gibbs. That was Gibbs' first touchdown, as I said.
Gibbs' first touchdown that game. It was, you don't want Goff pass him 50 times in a game. At least
No.
not in that situation. That's not Lions football. All right, my number 3 pick is actually staying in that division, but I'm going at Cincinnati. It's going to be an offensive game. I'm looking forward to seeing what we do. How we, stop Burrow, how we can stop Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, all the weapons they have over there. And, I'm looking for us to put up a bunch of points too. And that'll be a lot of fun. So 4 o'clock game again will be, nationally televised game. I think everybody will be waiting for that. We'll see if we get Jim Nance and Tony Romo. I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Maybe, or maybe it's the NFC guys. I'm not Tom Brady. That made me think that we're gonna get Tom Brady. I just don't want. Just let him ride off and be with the Raiders. I don't know. Maybe he'll do better this year. Maybe he'll get better, but he was just not very good last year.
No, I don't ask much out of the color commentators and stuff like that. Just don't be annoying.
Well, the problem is that Greg Olson was plenty fine in that spot before in the number
Right,
one spot.
right.
It's not like they needed to make that change. I mean, I liked Joe Buck and Troy Aikman before that. Obviously, they moved to ESPN. I think that they call a game fine. I don't agree with everything they say, but they're tolerable, and that's all that's all I want from my play-by-play people. I want some tolerability. I like
Right.
Jim Nance.
Just don't be annoying. Just
Yeah.
right. Like,
I like,
and I get the level of difficulty, especially after doing this, for them to try to have to, they know what game's coming up on whatever Sunday, 4:25, whatever it is. They got a full week to try to prepare, talk, interview with some players and everything, try to learn as much as they can about the team. But I can't think of any examples, but there's still times where I watch Lions games and I'll hear some of the stuff they're saying. It's like, man, he couldn't be further off.
Right.
Like, they're just missing with these opinions. Like, that's not the case.
Well, there's a lot of national talking points, and if you don't do your due diligence and you just, you could just bank on those, and I get it. You're
That's
doing
what Stephen
live.
A. Smith does.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Well, he also does that with a big scream so that everyone notices them. And, if you're saying something really loud, like if I say something really loud, it's really important. No, it's not. It's just,
Loud noises.
Yes. Anchorman. Got it. All right. What's your number 2?
Number 2 game, week 10 at Washington. Need payback for the playoff loss. We've got to go into their house and take it to them.
Yep. I'm right there with you. That's my choice too. And I'm probably thinking our number 1.
You had that at number 2 also?
I did.
Yeah.
We finally matched there. Yeah, we got to get retribution, and it's going to be on the road. I know it's going to be tough. The Lions are going to want payback. That's how they operate. And I'm sure they have this date circled. They won't look ahead to this game, but when it comes, they're going to be ready to play.
Absolutely.
Outdoors, the Command This guys have invited us out there if we want to tailgate with them. I doubt we're going to be able to take them up on that offer because we, have families, but
that would be sweet though.
It would be sweet. And it'd be nice to, look at Dev and tell him we got him this time. Cause I was on their podcast a couple weeks ago. Dev is a Knicks fan too. So not only did his team, not only did he knock the Lions out, then Jalen Brunson and his Knicks knocked us out.
Did you ask him about Brunson flopping? Did that come up or no?
It came up. I was, it's their show, so I'm not gonna, I didn't want to be too disrespectful, and plus, we didn't want to talk too much about NBA. But yes, of course, I called him a mother flopper. Of course, I called him that on the show, and I don't know if he didn't hear me or we glossed over it, but I mean, the Knicks did go out and beat the Celtics in the next round, which tells me if we could have got a couple calls go our way, like maybe a last second 3-pointer that should have been called a foul, we might have had a chance to beat the Celtics and still be in the playoffs.
Yeah, I don't know. The Knicks just had a way of playing down and crawling back every time and going on runs and just taking games over. And then once Tatum,
Celtics, too.
Once Tatum got hurt, I knew like this is over.
Yep.
I think
All right.
everybody knew.
Exactly. All right, let's get to our
All
number
right,
one.
NFL. Back to NFL. Yeah.
Your number one pick for a game you're looking forward to. It's the obvious one.
I don't know. It was obvious to me.
Okay.
Is
go
it
ahead.
against a defending Super Bowl champion?
It is.
Okay.
Yep.
Is it Sunday Night Football?
It is Sunday Night Football. That
Yes.
yes. So
That's the
looking
number
forward to
one,
that.
right?
Mhm.
That's the matchup that we thought we were going to get. Eventually last year. Thought
It's
about
the
maybe the
matchup that the
NFC
NFL
Championship
deserve.
right.
But unlike last year, they're going to have to face Hutch. And that is going to be the difference maker. We're going to,
I mean, they got a really good offensive line too. Obviously, the offense is good. I mean, it's a really good football team.
yes.
Show what you're made of.
And then, we prioritize stopping the run. They got Saquon Barkley, who was the best running back in the NFL last year, arguably. So I'm looking forward to that game. And, I think you get a little pressure on Jalen Hurts, you can make him look human. And hopefully that happens in that game.
Right. There may not be any tush push to worry about depending on how these votes and everything go this upcoming week.
Yeah. It's coming up, right? They're going to vote on that. And then the NFL seeding, too, which I'm curious. That proposal's been changed. So we'll get into that later on. But it looks like they're going to vote somehow on changing it. So if you win your division, you're not guaranteed a home game.
Right.
I'm
cool with
conflicted
that.
on that.
We talked about that already, but
Yep.
yeah, we'll for a future show.
Yeah. So Eagles definitely the number one game that we're looking forward to, and a really exciting schedule, to be honest with you. A lot of great teams on here, but yes, the
Right.
Eagles. And I bet you ask other Lions fans, they're going to have five. I mean, our first three were totally different. There's so many games that you could circle on here that are going to be good. And even if they're not in your top five, it's still going to be great. The Cowboys game, I know a lot of fans, look forward to that. They got, friends or family that are Cowboys fans, and that's always a great rivalry game. Um, always seems like we play the Cowboys almost every year. It just wherever we line up in the schedule, it just seems like we play them. Luckily, we get them, in our house this year. We've had to go to Dallas the last 2 years. Now they can come to Ford Field.
You got PTSD from the last game.
Yeah, I know.
It's going so well until it wasn't.
Yes, it was going great until it wasn't, unfortunately. All right. Brief look at the NFC North. So Jacob and I thought it'd be great to kind of just look and see what Packers, Vikings, and Bears schedule looks like. We're not going to go into great depth on this, not like we did for the Lions, but we are going to look at each one of those teams. Who do they play before the Lions game, the game preceding the Lions? See if that's going to be to our advantage and any quirks that they have in their schedule that we saw. So I'll start with the Packers. So obviously we play week 1, so they don't face anyone before that. But week 12 they play the Vikings on the Sunday before Thanksgiving. So we got the Giants, they got the Vikings. So they have, back-to-back division games 4 days apart. That's not ideal for sure.
Tough draw for them. At least they got the Vikings at home.
Yep. And then in week 2, they get the Commanders. They got to play the Commanders, but on a short week. So they play the Commanders in week 2 on a Thursday night. So they're going to go week 1 against the Lions, 4:25 on Sunday, and then they got to face the Commanders in a short week. That's a tough draw too.
That's also at home.
Yes.
But yes, tough draw. Tough team to play on a short week, especially early on in the season.
Yeah. And you could argue that, maybe that's good. You got a younger quarterback playing on a short week with, Jaden Daniels. I know Jaden Daniels did great last year, but, short, he's got to travel and maybe to their advantage, but and playing a tough team like that on a short rest, that's not great. And then bye week. So week 5 bye week. So the Packers grabbed our spot from last year, the very earliest spot. So I do like seeing that on their schedule that they're going to have an early bye. That means at the end of the season, they're going to have a long, they got to play a lot of games in a row.
Good.
Yes.
See how they like it.
Week I'm sorry. Next we're gonna look at the Vikings game of behind the lines. So week 8 they play the Chargers on Thursday Night Football. So then they're gonna have a long break. They're gonna have 10 days to prepare for us. However, on that same thing, we have a bye in week 8, so we have longer to prepare for the Vikings than they do. So not
So in
ideal that they
essence,
have a
this
long
should be a
break.
good football game.
Yes, two well rested teams. So that'll be great. And then the game before the Lions week, so we play them week 17 and week 16. They're at the Giants, so they got a road game before us. Then they come and play us for their second road game in a row. It's Now that's not too much of an advantage, but it's fine. They have, however, I don't know if you saw this, 2 international games back to back. Did you see this, Jacob? The
I did see
Vikings,
that.
yeah, weeks 4 and 5, Steelers and Browns, 2 international games. I'd be pissed if I was a Lions fan and we had to play 2 international games. Wouldn't you?
Yeah, I don't understand why. It doesn't make sense to me why they would have to.
Yeah.
But I mean, I guess at the very least, are they both? They're both in the same country, or are these in different?
I think they're in different countries too. Let's look that up.
That's what I was just gonna say. Is at least because I think they did that for the Jaguars last year too, but the Jaguars were able just to stay in London just because they played back-to-back weeks.
No, so they play in Dublin, Ireland, and then they have to go up to London. So they're not even in the same.
Excuse my geography skills, but how far is Ireland from London?
I'm gonna say it's longer than from Detroit to Minnesota.
Ireland to London is a 433-mile drive.
Yeah. So I guess that's not terrible. However,
Minnesota to Detroit is about twice as long.
Is it? Okay. Well, I was wrong. Still,
see, you don't know where Dublin's at either.
No, I don't. No.
I think it's a short plane ride. You can take the train from Ireland to England.
Okay. So, cheers, mate.
They're taking a vacation, man. They're going see what it's like to be Irish, and then go over to England.
They could take a vacation from these football games and lose to the Steelers and Browns too.
I hope they do. Just the Vikings, obviously, no more Sam Darnold. JJ McCarthy's the guy, and that's obviously a whole year to prepare mentally. But as far as physically playing, that's a rookie quarterback basically. So
he's going to make rookie mistakes, and that will happen. Something that I know Sam Darnold. I know he was not very good the last 2 weeks of the season, the last 2 games he played, but for the most part, he played pretty mistake-free football. So, and in the NFL, all it takes is 1 or 2 mistakes and you'll lose a game. So that, hopefully the Lions can be the benefits of that. The Vikings have 2 stretches where they play like 4 out of their 5 games are on the road. So they got some wicked stretches there as far as like that type of schedule. And then they also have a week 6 bye week. So they got an early bye week also earlier than the Lions. So I like that.
Right. Good.
Bears. So the Bears, obviously, we play them week 2. So in week 1, they play the Vikings on Monday Night Football. So they're going to be on short rest when we play them in week 2. Love seeing that. And like you had mentioned, they're starting out with, a divisional game. I don't know, like, if the NFL, because I know the Eagles, and I haven't looked at everyone's schedule, but I know the Eagles and the Cowboys are playing week 1. So I don't know if they prioritize division games early in the season, and then they always do it at the end of the season just because they're hoping that, it worked out like the Lions and Vikings last year where you got this super matchup for the division, and in that case, number 1 seed and everything. So I don't know if they prioritize like division games up front and then at the end, or if this just happens to be a coincidence in the NFC North. But
I mean, they got Buccaneers, Falcons, Chiefs, Chargers, Giants, Commanders. Who else we got? Bengals, Browns, 49ers, Seahawks. So about half of the games are divisional matchups. Okay.
Which, I mean, I guess on any given week, you're going to have that.
Right.
You're facing so many. But It just at least the other teams are playing each other, and so our division's kind of all playing. We're there are a lot of division games up front, and I'm okay with that.
I'm not a
Weeks
fan of that actually.
you don't like them playing
I
early,
don't
or
like the divisional games being right away.
yeah,
I would say the earliest maybe like week 3.
okay,
Have a couple, plus the excitement at the beginning of the season, everything like that. I think you can do more with matchups that the divisional games are always going to be good just because they're going to be in the division. But
yeah,
some of these games, depending on injuries and depending on other things, like they look way more interesting at the beginning of the season than the end. And it's impossible to predict that, but I just think you have a better chance of having better football games if you put some of those early on. We could have started against the Ravens or something like that, or any you could pick any of those teams to start
I
off
think
with. Really, it would have been a good opening. It's like Big Ten football. You don't have the Big Ten matchups right away. You usually have like a couple weeks into the season.
yeah, I get what you're saying there too, but also I think with the Lions schedule, it's to our benefit that we have some of those games up front because I don't know, I I don't know, this is going to be tough. I mean, we have a tough division this year.
Right.
Had one last year, and now the Bears are potentially being better. I think the Vikings probably take a step back. I don't think they're a 14-win team again. Just like you said earlier, I don't think the Lions are necessarily a 15 win team either. I mean, you can't count if you're counting on them winning 15 games every season. That's you're going to be disappointed more often than not.
Right. Right.
And the Packers, who knows with Packers? We don't know what Jordan Love's going to be like. They did get the first round wide receiver, but who knows? It's going to take him a little bit of time to get ready in this offense. I mean, most receivers are not ready week one. It takes them a little bit of time to get acclimated. So, we might be facing them at the right time. The second game we played the Bears week 18. So week 17, they got the 49ers on Sunday Night Football. So both times that we faced the Bears, were kind of getting them on a shorter week. Sunday Night Football obviously would be late. And yeah, so we could take advantage of that with the Bears. So the Vikings don't really, they don't really have any disadvantages playing the Lions. I definitely think the Packers do because that Week 12 game at the Vikings, and the Bears definitely do short weeks on both those games. The Bears also drew Week 5 bye week, so out of all the NFC North teams, have the latest bye week in Week 8.
That's good.
Yes,
I do like
I'm
to hear
down with
that.
that. Yes, I'm down with that. So, is there anything else you want to talk about with the NFC North before we move on?
No, I think that you were right that the Vikings are going to take a step back, and the Bears. I mean, on paper, it looks like the Bears have made all the right moves and done everything they could to be competitive this year. So we'll see. I don't know how quick Ben Johnson gets in there and if he can turn around Caleb Williams and make him do exactly, just on paper, when he gets in there with Caleb Williams and everything, with Caleb Williams' talent level, they should have a great offense. Like top 5 offense in the league should happen like right away. But will they all be on board? Will they all can they instill that offense? Can they all work towards the same thing? It took a while for the Lions, to build everything up and for everything to start clicking. So
Yeah, I think it's gonna take them a little bit. You know, Caleb Williams could end up being really good, but who knows how that's all gonna line up. But they're still gonna have to gel as an offense. I mean, Ben Johnson was he didn't come in and just all of a sudden we were an offensive juggernaut. It took that second half of his first season for us to really get going. And then, obviously he was going from there on. But also it remains to be seen if he can be a head coach. And it also, Dan Campbell's influence on this offense, I don't think gets enough credit. I really don't. I think we all want to put it on Ben Johnson, and rightfully so. Ben Johnson's smart. The players love Ben Johnson. I get all that. But being a head coach is different. And he's going to have, you know, he's not going to only be working with the offense. He's got to have to run the show. So, depending on how much he wants to be involved in the defense and stuff like that. We'll see. Caleb Williams is still young. He's not going to pick up that offense as quick as I think Jared Goff picked up. He was a veteran quarterback by the time he went to the Lions. He knew what he liked in the NFL, and once we started getting some talent around him, then it started to work.
Right.
Let's speak of another quarterback. We'll move off the schedule. Just some big NFL news. Brock Purdy signed his contract this year, 5 years, 265 million, 181 of it guaranteed. Jacob, thoughts?
Crazy. I mean, we kind of talked about this before. Like, they really were just in the 49ers were just in a really impossible position. Because do they want to just take, obviously he was Mr. Relevant, so he was really late in the draft, but do they want to take another stab at a draft pick and hope that they can recreate that same thing? Or do they want to pay this guy top dollar? I think their hands were kind of tied. I don't know how the negotiations went, but I believe that puts his average year at the same as Jared Goff, right? Or like very, very close. Yeah.
Yep.
And I
Jared
think it's
Goff.
a much clearer decision that you'd rather have Jared Goff than you would Brock Purdy.
Right. And the thing about Brock Purdy is, you've already lost Deebo Samuel, right? Are you going to be able to, is Brock Purdy going to be as good with less weapons around him? Now, next year, it'll be, assuming Christian McCaffrey is healthy the whole season, that'll really help them go. That'll just really help the offense go. All right. You have any idea? So he signed this huge contract. Do you have any idea how much money Brock Purdy has made in his 3 years in the league right now?
Oh, I remember in the Super Bowl, like they had talked about that. I mean, it's not much at all, right? I mean, there's like hardly any guarantee for where he was drafted.
2.8 million is what he's made so far.
I would have thought probably a little bit less than that, actually, but.
And so so he was drafted in 2022, as you just said, the last pick in the draft. Trey Lance was drafted, very early on, in
I know
2021.
where this is going.
And so how much do you think Trey Lance has made in his career at this point right now?
Top 3 pick, I don't know, 20 million?
34.1 million. Trey Lance, who's on his third NFL team right now, has made 34.1, whereas Brock Purdy, who's, depending on where he's at in the league, top, maybe a top 20 quarterback. I don't know where you want to put him. Some people will say top 10. Before last year, they would have had him way up there. Everyone's like, opinion differs on him. But regardless, he's definitely had a better career so far than Trey Lance by a long shot. And Trey Lance has made 34.1 million. Do you know how much that Brock Purdy pick saved Kyle Shanahan? If he does not pick Brock Purdy, then that Trey Lance thing, especially all the picks they gave up. I mean, they gave up 3 first rounders to move up to get him. And then they traded him like on his third year on his contract. That's insane to me. 34.1 million.
It's the way this draft works, right? It's just crazy for them to have missed so badly.
Yes. Just terrible.
Speaking for the 49ers as a whole, the 49ers have been spending money in re-signing their players. Kittle had the contract extension. They just earlier today, I believe, they re-signed Fred Warner, gave him another contract extension, which is obviously well earned. But
he's the highest paid linebacker in the league right now.
I mean, you didn't play very well last year, and obviously, like you said, you had the whole McCaffrey injury thing. But there's no more Deebo Samuel, so where do you, And now you've got all this money tied up. You were able to do these things before because you were paying Brock Purdy so little. And now you're paying Brock Purdy top dollar. So now your hands are tied elsewhere. Mm-hmm. You can't only throw it to George Kittle.
Yeah.
And you can't rely on McCaffrey to touch the ball 300 times a year.
Yeah. You got Ayuk. I don't know with Ayuk's injury, I don't know when he's going to be back this year.
Well, and Ayuk had that whole thing where he was basically 1 foot out the door before. I don't remember. They did sign Ayuk, right? Did they give him another deal?
Yeah,
or no?
They gave him a deal last year. That's why he came back.
And it was a big one, though, was it not?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't have that in front of me, but
it was. I don't think it was quite Amon-Ra money, but it was. I mean, it's up there. But yeah, it I don't know. I like the Lions contracts and how they do things, and I'm much more. I'd be, if you talked about even for the money, I'm much more comfortable having Jared Goff than Brock Purdy. Jared Goff's,
100%.
yeah, I just
Brandon Ayuk makes 10,000 less than Amon Ra.
okay.
76 mil guaranteed. Amon Ra got 77.
Mhm.
But there's more fully guaranteed money in Ayuk's contract, but their average per year is essentially the same.
Yeah, which I'd rather have Amon Ra 10 times over.
Exactly. Amon Ra's a little bit younger than him too, so yeah.
Yeah.
But now here you got all this cap space tied up in Brock Purdy and a couple guys.
Yeah, exactly. It'll be interesting. I mean, they were kind of stuck, and as Brad Holmes said, it's much easier to get worse at quarterback than better at quarterback. But you're going to live with the reality of limited weapons at some point. You're not going to be able to have. You've already traded off a considerable one with Debo Samuel. So,
well, you saw the limited weapons last year, though.
Yes.
Did you like
Yes.
what you saw? I mean, is that what you right? Is this like okay, we can be on board with this?
Yeah.
No.
Now, I think McCaffrey, though, I mean, that's a big loss, just not even for Brock Purdy, just for the offense in general. So, I mean, I don't know if it's fair to categorize that, but yeah, you're definitely going to notice it. And we'll see how it goes. I just think it was interesting. And I think, you knew he was going to get a contract. Actually, this one might be a little bit lower than I thought he might get because they tend to just keep building on each other. So I don't want to say they got a deal, but I was kind of expecting a little bit more. But who knows?
Yeah, I do like Brock Purdy. I don't see that much money, and I don't see much coming from that. But we'll see.
Yeah,
I mean, he already proved he can win when he's got a bunch of all pros around him.
Yeah. Well, he's gonna have one less this year. So, all right, man. Tigers are definitely not coming back in this game. It is now 10-0. So it's gonna hurt the run differential. Yeah, that's gonna hurt.
My
the
phone
run
goes to sleep after a certain time, so my phone's just lying to me. It says it's 5-0 and there's no delay.
Yeah,
I appreciate that iPhone. I'll just go to bed with optimistic.
Yeah, just go. They could come back. Just a little grand slam. And
they can always come back.
Yeah, yeah.
They've done it before.
They have.
Maybe not 10-0, but
10-0's a lot to ask. I think this would be Kenta Maeda time had they not cut him. 10-0.
Right.
And that's probably how I would have figured they got the from 5 to 10 was Maeda came in and gave up 5 runs without getting an out.
Montero 5 2/3 give up 5 runs. They take him out and put in the Brebbia.
Yeah, Brebbia.
Yep. Put in Brebbia. He's right now he's got 1 batter out. He's given up 4 runs.
Man. Yeah.
Not a good day for the relief staff.
Yep. So next week, Jacob and I are the coordinators talked last week. We thought we're just going to focus on schedule this week, give us something to talk about there. A couple weeks, June 9th, Jeremy Reisman's set to join us again. We're going to have this NFL rules show. Still trying to do the outline on it, exactly how we're gonna break this up. I got a bunch of fun concepts that I've come up for rules. Hopefully Jacob's done his job and he comes up with some. That Jeremy loves to talk about rules, so he'll come firing with all cylinders. So it'll be a fun show. I'm looking forward to that. Anytime we can have Jeremy on the show, that's cool. So we'll have that. We had Tom on last week. That show did really well. It was so much fun talking with him. I'm still in disbelief that we talked to Tom Grassi.
Right.
But it did happen.
Tom Grassi is our friend.
Yeah. just have us on the video once, Tom. Just have us on your podcast one time.
Yeah, I call him Tom now when JJ's talking about him. Oh yeah, is Tom recording? Is Tom live?
Yeah, it's Tom.
He used to be Tom Grassi.
Yeah.
Tom Grassi. Yeah. Are you watching Tom Grassi? Now he's just Tom. It's my friend Tom.
Hey, yo, Tommy. All right, man. Well, it's always fun. I look forward to our chats every week. It's just fun to you and I get to focus on a lot of time. We're so involved with our family. You had kid sports earlier. I was outside pitching to my boys earlier. Always doing stuff. It is very nice to focus on the Lions and focus on you for at least an hour each week. So I do appreciate that.
For sure, man.
Yeah.
1 year.
Yeah. 1 year and keep on going. So I don't work with you tomorrow, but on Wednesday I'll see you. So I'm looking forward to that.
For one of the final times before Jason leaves.
Before I start working at home.
HR didn't give him a choice. Said he had to get out of the store.
Hey, that's unsubstantiated. That's nothing. There's no, we can't talk about it.
He had a closed door meeting and now he's remote.
Came out sheepish. Yeah. No, this will be a good thing for my family.
Absolutely. Congrats.
And, so it'll be cool. I will miss talking sports with you, but I think it maybe make our show better because we'll be fresh and we'll have all these ideas. And
we'll be talking about it all for the first time live.
Yeah, exactly. So, all right. For Jacob, I'm Jason. Let's go.